Record cloud. All right, welcome to globetrotter build version 8, I think. And we are here building out our travel app. Let's go ahead and get this thing started.
Howard, can we make the terminal a little bigger?
Yes, I can definitely do that. Rails S. And for whatever reason, it only goes one at a time. So we'll make that one bigger. Then I'll make that one bigger. Is that a pretty good size right about there?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Similarly with the editor, we'll probably have to make that bigger. Let's get our browser over here. Yeah, I tend to, myself, I zoom way out. So then on the meetings, I have to zoom back in. So don't ever hesitate to tell me something's too small, or you can't see, you can't hear, because I don't know until someone tells me, or I'm just not thinking about it. So we've got our travel app, Globetrotter, and we're got a lot of basic stuff out of the way. I shouldn't say basic. We got a lot of like login, sign up stuff, mostly out of the way. And we're to the point where we can now start thinking about what our front end layout looks like. Let's grab the log. I feel like we left off with something sort of specific that needed to happen. Let's reorient ourselves here. Let's see. Okay, we need to clean up the UI and basic routes. Okay. So let me just duplicate this. Today is what, the 26th? Is today the 26th?
27th.
Oh, this is June. It's not the 26th month. Okay, 27th. That makes sense. And that happened already. I think we got the current user strips to load. We kind of did that. We added sign up. We did that for sign up. We started thinking about our initial layout, although we haven't gotten a whole lot further. I think we kind of left off thinking about what routes we want, routes versus nav bar versus login, sign up, all that kind of stuff. And we can think about CSS. We can think about creating more resources. Okay. So let's see what we have in the browser. No one's logged in. Okay. Whoa, that's tiny. Okay. No one is logged in. No one can read these tiny dev tools. There we go. Is that readable for everyone?
Yes, and it's a new name. It's called Tiny Dev Tools.
Yeah, tiny dev tools.
Yeah.
It sounds like a Elton John, tiny dev tool. No, just kidding. Okay.
Shrink those dev tools if you want to.
What's that?
You might be able to shrink those dev tools a little if you want to.
Like that, maybe?
That's perfect.
Let's see what Redux looks like. We'll be looking at all of them, I'm sure. So this is readable for everyone. I've got, let's get, that's really bothering me that users is even there. Let me just dump users out of there, because that was kind of when we first set up the application. We thought maybe we'd want an array of users. To me right now doesn't really, could it ever make sense we would want an array of just users? What do we think? I'm thinking not. I don't know.
Doesn't really make much sense, right? Why would you want to send all of the users to the client?
Yeah, I don't think so. And if it was, it would be maybe something like who has gone to see this thing, or who, I don't know. And even so, it would be through something else. So I think I'm going to at least remove them for now from our reducer, because I don't really like that it's there. And I'm just going to snip it out of the store. That's an easy thing to do. Is just pull users out for now. Comment out my import. I'm not going to delete anything and go crazy, but that'll just make me feel better. I don't need those for now. So no one's logged in. That's good, or it's fine anyway. And that leaves us with our current user, our login form, our sign up form, and our new trip form. Good. Okay. And let's see. If I want to sign up, I see a sign up form. Looks terrible, but there it is. I can use the back button in the browser. It'd be nice if we had like a link maybe to log in instead. And likewise, if I click login, I got this form. So it might be nice to have a little link, but that's kind of minor. It's not a big deal. I'm okay with back and forward here for now. So if we log in, let's see, CP Dundon, right? That's a person, I think. Password. We got a current user. Good. Attributes, relationships, great. And I can log out. Okay, so I think now the next step is let's think about what a user should be able to see. So let's think about some routes and some components. Once I'm logged in, what should I be looking at? So let's go ahead and log back in. Nadia.
Howard, just one minor thing in your update, current user, you have current spelled a typo.
Thank you. Where's that?
In your, I think it's either action or your reduce, your action.
It's one of the actions that's spelled wrong?
Yeah, you're missing an N. Wait,
Current, clear current user, set current user, clear, okay, current user. So I must have suggested and I went along with it. So let's go, that would be in my sign up. No, current user, clear current. Thank you. So there, which means it also is in my action creator. Current. Thank you. Good catch. I appreciate that.
Sure. Those things I can catch.
You can. Okay. Cool. So now I think, like, to me, it feels like let's think about Nadia's logged in. This looks terrible. Let's think about what is it that I want to see in terms of navigation. Like, what should I be able to look at here? So let's think about that. What would you like to see when you're logged in? Right now, we just kind of automatically render this trips component. But in terms of navigation up here, besides the ability to log out, what else would I want?
Would you want to click on a trip for more detail?
Yeah, okay, so how about trips CRUD? Are we okay with that? Like RESTful trip actions? I want to see all the trips, I want to see a trip, and I want to see, like, be able to create a trip. All from like a menu here. I never want to have to type in the URL. Oh, do we agree that that sounds like a good idea?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we can set that up a couple different ways, and let's get into it, talk about it. So in our app right now, I do have this, so it looks like we've started to set up these paths, but I have no navigation for them. So I definitely want like some kind of a nav bar that's going to show up. Did I build a nav bar? I don't remember. Components. I do have this nav bar component. It's kind of meaningless now. So let's think about what kind of links we want here. So I'm going to grab nav link. And I'm going to use nav link instead of link because that'll give me the ability to style my links and know kind of where I am at any given time. So nav link, well, for now that might be enough, from React Router DOM. And I want to sort of think about having this little bar up here where I can navigate from. And so this is going to be class name navbar. I really don't even need my welcome here. Let's just think about our routes. So I know I'm going to need, I want a nav link.
Howard, could I ask you I guess a remedial question?
No such thing.
So you have this set up so it's a functional class. It's not a proper full-on class.
A functional component, not a class, yep.
Right, so it's not a class, it's a functional component.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you map state to props.
Yep.
I didn't know you could do that.
Okay, so Redux. This is Redux, right? This is how I connect to my Redux store, state, and actions, which I don't have any actions, right? But if I wanted actions, I could do that too. Map state to props and map dispatch to props, along with connect my components to Redux so that I can dispatch actions, make changes to my state, and so that I can get access to pieces of the state.
Mm-hmm.
Redux does not care whether it is connecting to a functional component or a class component. Never has, never will.
Interesting.
Redux doesn't care. So you have the same access to Redux from a functional component as from a class component. Whether it's a class component that has state, that doesn't have state, that's using lifecycle methods, that's not, whether it's a functional component that uses a functional declaration or an arrow function expression or a regular old function expression with the keyword function, and it doesn't matter whether you're using hooks. Redux is agnostic to any of that and is happy to connect to any React component that you pass it as the argument here, to the resulting function that we get when we invoke connect.
Okay.
Okay.
So one more question. Since
Sure.
you brought it up, and I've forgotten. What are hooks?
Hooks are not in the curriculum yet. Hooks are a way that in React, we can add state to functional components, not just class components. So in other words, if I wanted, I don't know, what would a nav bar care about for state? Logged in or something like that. So I could say something like const user set user equals use state. No, what is it? Use use state, right? Something like that. And then my initial user, so it would be like an empty object or something. And I would have to grab that from React as a hook. There's a series of hooks you can look up, but we're not teaching that yet. You still, like, learning classes, this is my opinion, but it's a strong opinion. Learning classes first is still the way to learn React today. And then get into hooks once you understand classes and functional components, then learn hooks, because there's too much code out there that uses classes. Like, there was no big switch that everyone just stopped using classes, or that legacy code just disappeared, right? It's all still there. You need to know how to manipulate them, right? And then learn hooks. Do learn hooks. Don't ignore them. And they're great. They're really awesome. So this could now this could have state where before it couldn't, using hooks.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much.
Yep. Cool. Great question. So basically, I want this navbar to be a series of links, and I want these links to show up like across. I don't want them to be down. So I'm gonna add. While I'm thinking of that, I'm gonna make navbar. Oh, I did that. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh, I'm ahead of myself. So I added so flex means that the children will all be flexed in the direction of row. I have color red. I don't think I like that. But I do then want navbar. Then I want, let's see, these are going to be anchor tags. And let's just say that we want, if it's an active anchor tag, then I want it to be color, I don't know. What color do we want our active tags to be? Active link.
I like the green ones you were using the other day.
Okay, green it is. You're the first one to speak up, so you went. If anyone wants other colors, too bad. Chris made the decision. Just kidding. So let's see what that looks like now. So I'm going to add a couple links here. So I've added one link. What do I need to add here? Just like I already wrote in 2. What needs to go inside of 2?
A forward bar.
Okay, and
the button, or I guess the route to the page
route
that you want.
Sure. So where would I want to be able to go as a user?
Well, we're talking about a menu of different trips, so maybe like a trips with the plural. Yeah. Trips
would be good. Maybe a trips with, well, the ID doesn't make sense unless it's from a link, right? I can't just like click on a show page, but maybe be able to create a new trip. Mm-hmm. And I shouldn't close these yet, right? I need to actually say, so trips, all trips, or maybe it's my trips, I guess. For now anyway, we don't have anyone else's trips. We could change that though. New trip. And I think logout actually makes sense here, right? So if we're logged in, where am I showing it right now? Right now I have it in an app, right? So let's actually take this. Let's put that in. I think that makes sense in our nav bar. Does that make sense to everyone else? Like if I'm logged in, I can log out. Does that make sense? Like I have things I can choose from, including being able to log out, or should they be separate? What do we think?
I think they should be there.
Okay, I think this feels good to me. So then, current user. I'm also going to grab logged in.
Howard, could I ask you another question?
Yep.
That logged in ternary.
Yep.
Where's the link?
You mean here?
No, below, up near div.
Near div. What do you mean? Where's the link? Sorry.
So if you logged in, you're gonna log out.
I have the ability. This is a component, right? So this component will render right here. So this is a component that will render. Otherwise, nothing will render as a result of line 11. Login, I'm grabbing as as a Boolean based on the current user, which I could just say not current user right here since I already have that. So it's a little bit redundant maybe to declare a new prop that's based on an existing prop. But I just like the syntax. I don't know.
So what is that component? I'm just curious because I'm a little confused.
Sure. Here's logout. This is a component. It's a functional component that returns a form, which when submitted, sends a request to the backend and logs this out. Remember that Rails is holding on to the whether a user's logged in using session, and so that's why this is a form, so that I can make that request to the backend, telling the backend we are actually logging out. And then once that completes, just to round out and sort of answer the question in a
Okay, so it'll be 2 links and a button, basically.
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, this isn't really like a link per se. It's a button that does something. But as a result, when we look down here and we see when we actually do log out, which is sign up, log out right here, it just sends this request. Ooh, we don't have, oh great, this is more stuff we can do. Because right now, I really should be doing more than just this, I think. So let's see what happens. I need to import my login. Okay.
Do you also need to import your log out?
That's what I wanted. Thank you. I don't need login at all here. Log out. Thank you very much. I'm like, wait a minute. Something was wrong. So, okay. So we're logged in. Now I'm not rendering my nav bar right now. So let's go back to app and put it back. And let's just put it here, I suppose. Oh, I don't have my, looks like I removed a switch statement, or we just never had one. Let's add we really should have a switch statement here because I don't want multiple of any of this stuff to show up, I don't think. So let's run a switch statement. I should say let's render a switch component. And all these are now children of that switch component. All these are outs. That way only one will ever match because I don't think I ever want more than one of these to match. Oh, okay, I see what's going on there. Okay. Okay, let's put our nav bar up here. And let's import it. Okay, I already did. I've got to pay attention to some of these warnings that I've got all this stuff that I'm declaring now all over the place and never using. Okay, this is looking better. So if I'm logged in, I see my trips, new trip, and log out. Let's kind of fix what that looks like here in the nav bar. So my trips, everything's just going to get 2 spaces, the vertical line, 2 more spaces to the right until we get to the last one. And that should at least spread them out a little bit for us. Cool. And if I'm on my trips, okay, our active isn't working right now. What is that little thing there? Feels like there's something hiding behind the logout button, doesn't it? That's weird. And why is that? I don't like that it's not centered either, but that's okay. This looks at least a little bit better. So this is my new trip form. This is my trips. Why aren't we getting our active here? So let's inspect these and figure out why. Why did our active not show up? So this is an anchor tag. It didn't get a class though. I wonder why not. Oh, because I didn't include it. So this has to be active. What's the attribute that I need to include here? Technically the prop, I suppose. Anyone know? In order to turn on, so I added the CSS I need. So if an anchor tag has a class of active, but how do I get a nav link to actually enforce that?
Would you an A tag with the class name?
Well, that's what it's going to turn into, and if it's I believe it's active class, and if it's not, then we'll look up and see what it is. Active class. Let's see if that's it. And now if I inspect this link, oops. If I inspect this link, it does in fact have now a class of active. If I click on new trip, my trips is still green and new trip isn't, right? So that's kind of weird. So what I need to do is, as well as include exact. That way, only one of, this will only show the green one if the exact route matches where we are. Okay, so let's see what happens now. So now only new trip is showing active as green, and my trips is now, oops, let's see. It's interesting. Why are we not getting, trips is never showing as active. That's interesting. Is that right? So let's just double check with that. If we look up on navlink, React router navlink, active link showing twice. Nope. Let's just look for active. Well, yeah, let's look at that. Good old Stack Overflow. Sometimes it's really useful. Sometimes it's not.
Howard,
Active class name. That's what it is. What's that?
Did you save that file?
I think so. Let me double check again.
You also have a stray letter D.
Yeah.
I do. But I think also, that could have been it. But I think it's also active class name. Maybe. Let's try that. And by default, this will just be active. I can set it to something else, whatever I want to call it in my CSS. Let's see if that did it. Let's just set it explicitly. It equals active. Let's be very, very, very specific here. Now, new trips. What's up there, new trip? Why is my trips not showing? Navlink exact active to trips. I'm at trips. It should be active. Trips new is only still showing active, even though that's not where we are. That's interesting. Well, so here's our router. Trips, trip new, blah, blah, blah. That should be okay. I'm really curious what that little thing is. I guess that's just part of this thing. It's weird. So once I log out, okay, that's another problem. Once I'm logged out, did I click log out? Did I log out? What is going on here? All kinds of weird stuff's happening. So we logged out. We successfully logged out, but apparently we're still seeing our trips. My trips are still there. Okay, so this is kind of what we talked about. So I'm kind of ignoring the act. I'm not sure what's going on with our active. We're gonna have to circle back around to that. Why my active navlink is not toggling sort of back and forth. If anyone sees something that's like, oh, I've seen that before and this is what's going on, let me know. But one thing that's not happening is when we log out, we're not doing enough. I logged out, right? But like if I click on my trips, for example, I'm seeing them because they were already in state. I never cleared them out of state. So when I log out, I'm telling Rails I'm logged out, which is great. Like for example, if I refresh this page, a hard refresh, Rails says no one's logged in. Rails knows that we logged out because I sent that delete request, but I never did anything else about it, and that's a problem. So let's take care of that right now. So when I log out, which is an action in current user, all I'm doing right now is logging out on the back end, and I'm doing nothing on the front end, and that's no good. So we send our request to log out, and now what? First, I'm going to get my response and get it, JSONify it. Okay.
Don't you, well, after that, isn't like the last thing you dispatch your action creator for logging out?
Exactly. So how do I, did I build that? Like, let's see. Clear current user. It looks like I built it and I just never dispatched it, and that's exactly right. So I'm going to take this response, and let me double check, but I don't know, what did I do on the back end for this? So let's find our controllers. Oh, session controller, I believe, is the one that logs us out. So I just have this notice, status OK. I don't really have an error, and I'm not really sure, like there's no way session.clear should ever really fail. So I'm not sure that I would ever get a response other than this, to be honest. You know, even if the session, even if I were already logged out and I were able to hit this action, it's still just going to be like, okay, fine, clear an empty session, whatever. And so I think this is what I always expect, which is why, and what I'm kind of hinting at is I don't think I'm going to split this into an if else in the body, which I ordinarily would do. Instead, I'm just going to, as Sally mentioned, make some dispatches here. So one thing I want to do is dispatch, what was it? Clear current user. Clear current user. Okay. What else do I want to do? Is that enough?
Don't you have to clear trips?
Didn't we do that above?
Yeah, we did that at the first dispatch.
Oh, we did. Oh, okay.
Don't you have to clear trips?
Yeah, so even though current user is cleared, trips are still in state, right? Does that make sense? Like if we look at our redux state, just because we clear our current user, it doesn't mean that our trips just magically get erased. It might mean that somewhere within our application, we'll do a quick check on current user, and if the current user is not there, we don't show something, although we clearly didn't do that because we were seeing the trips a minute ago. But we need to do that. We need to wipe the data that's only in the current redux state because the user's logged in. So we need to be careful to handle our state. Remember, this is an SPA, a single page application. We are never going to refresh, which means it's up to us to all the time handle our state. So components will mount and unmount. So if components own state, they would clear occasionally depending on what was happening. But we're putting all of our state in redux, which means we have to explicitly update our state on any action. So we have to think about the side effects that we want to happen on any action that we take. And logging out and logging in are big ones. So you're absolutely right. I need to, in fact, maybe that's why I kind of had it built in the first place like this. I really don't need to wait for the response. If the user actually clicked log out, they want to be logged out, I can optimistically, I don't need a response at all. I can optimistically dispatch these actions. So basically what else I need to do right now anyway is clear trips. So first of all, whose business is clear trips in terms of actions? Does that belong in current user?
I don't think so.
I think it belongs in the trips actions, not the current user actions. That's my intuition for now. So let's look in source actions, my trips. So right now our actions includes getting my trips and setting my trips. So let's add one to clear trips. Clear trips. Doesn't need any arguments and just needs to return an action with a type of clear trips. Okay, that looks okay, I think. And I then need in my trips reducer, in my trips reducer maybe, split down. I need to now actually be able to do something with this thing once I've invoked it. So I invoked before I ever built it. Then I built it, and now I'm going to add the case to my reducer. Maybe the reverse would be a more logical order. You have to decide what order feels good for you when it comes to adding something to adding an action to Redux. Just remember, you always need to update your reducer. You should use action creators, and somewhere you're going to have to either connect or directly invoke that action, or I should say directly dispatch it if you're in a callback. Sorry, not a callback. If you're in a function returning from an asynchronous action, we're going to dispatch those actions directly. If we're anywhere inside of a component, then we're going to connect using Redux connect and map dispatch to props, or the shorthand version thereof. Sorry if I just said a lot. Sorry if I was
I need
confused.
to ask you another question.
Yeah, ask questions. That's what I want you to do. If you're asking questions, you're making my day.
Do you typically separate your reducers from the sync and the async? Or do you mix them up, or what's your thought?
So you said reducers. I separate my asynchronous and synchronous action creators just for my own organizational edification. So in the action creator file here, you see I've got a section up here that's going to be all my synchronous actions, and down here all my asynchronous action creators. Right? I really should say, I mean, it's synchronous action creators are creating actions that are synchronous versus the other way around. So I could write it either way. You said reducer though. Is this what you meant somewhere in here?
Yeah, I meant reducer. The only reason why I bring it up is because I've been doing some reading on the side of the curriculum on redux and
Sure.
asynchronous redux thunk. And I thought one fellow said he had reducers for his asynchronous actions, and he had reducers for his synchronous actions. And then he brought them all together with that reducer smasher, whatever it's called.
Combined reducers?
Yes.
So if we look at our store, I'm processing your question. I'm trying to imagine. So each of these is a reducer, right? And just as a reminder, it's the same exact thing as it's a key value pair that's happening here, right? A property value pair. And each one of these is the same as if I wrote it out like that, right? It's just the shorthand syntax that Java gives us. So key value, key value, key value. The key is what I want the property to be called in Redux. The value is a reducer who's responsible for just that one piece of the Redux state. So I'm trying to imagine how, if I tried to split up my reducers based on synchronous and asynchronicity, I'm not sure how I could then, because right now, so here, for example, this is a synchronous, this is the result of, well, these are both like, how do I want to say this? Once we're hitting a reducer, it's a synchronous action. It's an action that's synchronous. Like in other words, our action creators could be asynchronous. In other words, they're returning functions where we get dispatched. But then as soon as we're actually dispatching these things, once that happens, that's happening. That's what's actually causing a change via the reducers. So I'm not sure how I would split a reducer into synchronous versus asynchronous. It doesn't really make sense.
Maybe I just misunderstood this article. I read like 5 of them and my head was like,
yeah.
So it's possible.
Yeah, maybe I wonder. You have me curious, you've piqued my curiosity, but I can't imagine, I don't see where that makes sense. Like you could do something like, we could add like a loading, right? A loading Boolean of true or false, for example, where we show like a little, hey, something's happening in the background, and we flick that on and off. But again, that would be similar to, we would turn it on here as soon as we fire this get my trips, and then turn it off on success right there. Or actually down here, I guess. So even that, like you're firing actions that hit a reducer. I don't know. I don't see how we would split a reducer on a single piece of the Redux state. That I have a hard time imagining what that looks like.
Okay. I mean, I was just asking to see if it kind of made sense or not, because I couldn't figure it out. So
if you have an article or whatever you want to send me, and I'll look it over and see if I can make sense of it or explain what they're saying, or like maybe it'll blow my mind and I'll be like, wow, this is a pattern I've never seen and it's great. I don't know. So I'm always open for that kind of stuff.
Okay, I'll give it a second look and see if they're more talking about the action creators, and if they're not, then I'll send the article over.
Cool, awesome, cool, very good.
Another
Yep.
quick question.
Sure.
Back to your reducer.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't even explain it. I just wrote it and closed it. That was rude. I didn't mean to do that actually. I meant to talk about this.
It's okay.
So
just on clear trips, because you're clearing the entire trips array, you just have the array. If you were just clearing a specific attribute, let's say name, you'd be specific and you'd have the name colon and then like an empty string or something, whatever it was.
What do you mean if I was just clearing name?
Well, let's say in clearing trips, you were just getting back to my crud lab from yesterday.
Mhm.
So,
If you were updating a trip or
yeah, if you were like updating it, you were just clearing the field.
yeah,
Then,
so you
right,
would, so I was changing the name of a trip from one thing to something else.
yes,
Okay,
right, and then you didn't want that.
that's something that we hopefully, well, I'd love to get to that. I'm sorry. I don't. One of us just got choppy, Sally, and I think I just talked over you. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so if you're clearing just the input field when you're updating, and you just need to be specific for that attribute, rather than you're not clearing the entire array, you're just clearing that field, the input field, when you update.
You're talking about changing a form.
Yes,
Okay. So this has nothing. We don't have a form yet.
right, but that's why you're using the upper level full empty array. That's what you're doing.
So that would be a different reducer, right? That would be a
Yes.
reducer around the new trip form.
Yes,
And that's not this one.
right, this is just clearing state.
Right. So my new trip form reducer, this is actually the state, the objects themselves in an array. So the only thing that this reducer would do would be to populate an array with objects, clear the array with objects, or concatenate or delete elements from that array. Or possibly update a single element of an array, right? If I send a patch request, I update a single trip, then when that comes back, I'll make sure to update that trip within this array as well. But as far as like form inputs, that's its own chunk of state, which is represented by
Right, so I'll just wait till we get to that.
that guy. This guy.
Yeah.
Howard, can I ask one more question again?
Yep.
So if we go back to the trips reducer,
Sure.
so when you clear trips,
Mhm.
you're returning an empty array,
Mhm.
which gets tacked onto the my trips key because you're using combined reducers.
So exactly the return. So when I import this default export, okay, over here in my store, it's right here. I'm naming it my trips. I can do that because it's a default export. I can call it whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pattern I use. I call it what I want this thing to be called in state. So if I want it to be called my trips, then that's what I'm going to call it. I really should just call it trips to be even more like succinct. But anyway, but yes, so now this reducer that I'm importing, which is this function over here, is now going to be responsible for updating the my trips state in Redux, which happens to be an array, but it's an array because I told it to be initial state. And now when I clear, it's back to that empty array. So that's correct. The return value of this function will become the state under whatever property I'm using the reducer in this case, it's my trips. So yes, is the answer to your question. I could do it this way, by the way, and very often you'll see this pattern of constant initial state or something equals, in this case, an empty array. And then I could say state equals initial state, and I can return initial state in both these, here. And the default is always going to be a return state. Now, I don't do that when it's as simple as an empty array or an empty string. When it's an object with particular properties that I want to show up, then I'm going to build this object like I do with the forms, right? So if I look at the new trip form reducer, sorry, where is it? New trip form reducer, there it is. I create my initial state as an object explicitly, and I use that for my clearing and for my default argument of to state. But I always default return state.
Gotcha. The thing that always throws me is when you use the combined reducer, it creates a bunch of keys that I don't really expect to be there.
So these keys these will be the keys in my Redux store. So there's 5 of them. If I look over here, there they are, those 5 keys. That's what they are. That's what I'm defining here. And again, it's just a shortcut for this. And the right side is a function, it's a reducer. The left side is the property name. And I'm naming them as I import these reducer functions. I name them one at a time, and that's how they end up here. And I'm just using the shorthand syntax here for them. Cool. What is it complaining about? Their trips is not defined. Oh, great. So It's telling me that in my trips, my current user actions, when I tried to clear my trips, it doesn't have any idea what in the world this thing is. That's because it's written in a different action creator file, so I need to import it. And it's my trips, so it's just going to be clear trips. Now we should be in good shape. Okay, no one's logged in. So I'm going to go ahead. Ooh, I don't want to not be able to log in here. What happened? I thought I had that taken care of. So, where's my, what happened here? So I really probably don't want to be able to even see this nav bar unless we're logged in, or that part of the nav bar. Let's see, really maybe not the nav bar at all, right? At least not as it's written now. So let's go ahead and wrap that in a ternary for now. Logged in, otherwise null. Okay. So now we're going to see nothing, but I do want to be able to sign up or log in. And yeah, no one's logged in. Thank you. Okay. So my router's fine. I'm just not showing, I guess that makes sense. I'm not showing the user anything here. So I guess I could put login or sign up in the nav bar and just have one thing or the other showing. I don't know if I love that, but I don't think I do. I think I'll just put it here as well. So yeah, so I'm just going to say logged in once again. I don't know if I love this. So basically, if I'm logged in, I want to show the nav bars. Otherwise, it's not null that I want. Otherwise, it's this fragment containing both the login or sign up. Login or sign up. Am I allowed to put an or there like that? I'm not sure. Find out. These should be links. So let's put links here. I feel like I had, didn't that come with the ability to click a link? Where was that? Did I delete that from somewhere? I guess I deleted that here. How funny. I don't know what I did. Anyway, let's put link to login. Login. Nope, I don't need that, sorry. Link to login or link to sign up.
I think we need text again.
Thank you. Login. Or link to sign up. Sign up. Probably driving everyone dizzy with my syntax this year. Okay, so it's a fragment, and I've got a link to log in or a link to sign up. Let's see what that does for us. Failed to compile, link is not defined. Was that inside of like a home component? Is that what that was? Oh, that's what it was. It was home. Oh my gosh. How did I delete home? I must have accidentally got rid of home. That's why I felt like I'd written this before. So home is what we're going, was just like this login or sign up. It really shouldn't be called home. It should be called like login or sign up. So that's really, sorry for this, but this is what I'm doing. I either want to show the nav bar or this apparently home thing. I don't know why I called it home, but anyway, that's it. Okay, that's actually what I want. Sorry about that. Now we should see, if we're logged in, we see the nav bar here. Otherwise, we see home. And this is just my router. So that should be it. What is going on here though? There we go. Login or sign up. Now I can go to login or sign up. Ooh, I kind of don't mind that that's there now. That looks good. Let's go ahead and log in. Nadia F. No, yeah, log in. No, we're going to immediately sign out. So password. Now when I log in, great. And I see my trips, new trip, and log out. When I log out, I see my state cleared. And that's what I wanted to see. Clear trips and clear current user. Right now, that's what I need to do. That's what I needed to happen. This is all really good news. How did I end up with that twice, though? Oh, this was my home route. Oh, I guess I don't.
I think it's on the index page.
No, yeah, here. So you know what? Now that I have my nav bar, I don't need to just like automatically see trips anymore. So I'm gonna get rid of that and see what that does for us. Okay, okay. I'm gonna log in. There's Nadia. Password of password. She's logged in. Now I can see my trips. Now I can see the new trip form. My trips, new trip, my trip, new trips. Log out, and ooh, okay. So when I log out. So that's the other thing. What else needs to happen when I log out? What did I forget to do? Or just didn't do? Yeah. This one might be a little trickier to think about. What's the problem here?
Clear session.
I did clear the session. I am logged out, but why am I still seeing this form?
Unmount.
What's that?
You need to do an unmount.
It's not well, the result will be an unmount, yes, but how do I get there? And it shouldn't matter. Like basically, this URL should go to something else. How do I do that?
Oh, don't you do like a redirect to the home page?
Yes, I need to do. It could be a redirect, or I could just do a history push when I log out. So let's see. Let's look at our login component. And our our log out component. Where does it render from? It renders as a child of what? Nav bar. Let's see. So if logged out, import logged out, it renders as a child of navbar. Let's see what it has available to it. So let's log back in. I look at Nadia, and basically the idea is I need to either, like you said, a redirect should work, or I could push state once I click log out. So let's kind of see what makes more sense here. Whoops, I meant to inspect that. Okay, so now I need React because I want to know what does logout have available to it as props. So if I click on my little target, I click on logout, and I look at the props, all I have is logout. So I don't have router props available to me. And so once I click logout, I'm still wherever I was. If I go to my trips or new trip, that's where I am. When I click logout, what I need to do is go somewhere else. And so when I click logout right now, which is this component here, and I have a submit event, which means that I really need whatever happens on clicking this thing really needs to happen in my action creator. Like what else could I do here? There's kind of one other thing I could do. So there's kind of two ways to handle this. But I think importing, I think getting my browser router, React router props to the logout button and passing history and pushing from my action creators might be the easier way to do this. Any thoughts on what I just said? Jibbled garbage or jarbled gibberish, or that makes sense, or kind of yes, no? What do we think?
Howard, I have a question.
Yep.
So why can't you just use an if else statement?
And what would the if else? Where would I put an if else statement?
For the, I guess for the home page or the nav link, like if signed in, show all of these, else if don't show all of these.
So it's not a matter of what I'm showing. I'm showing what I want. It's a matter that my route isn't changing, right?
Oh, okay. So this is a route issue.
Yeah, it's a routing issue. So when I click log out, right now I'm logged in, so I'm seeing log out, which is good. And I'm seeing the form because I just clicked new trip. And I'm seeing the form for new trip. But when I click log out, my URL is not going to change, and I need that to change back to like slash. Right? So how do I make that happen? What do we think?
Howard, could you use a callback function, or would that not be?
So I could do that, right? What would that look like?
Well, you'd have to pass it out of somewhere that has access to the router.
Okay, but well, so that's a step I could take, so that's kind of what I was getting at is I could just use with router, right? I could just import with router, and that gives me my router props right here.
Oh.
So if I import with router, is this what you kind of meant, like the idea anyway?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how to get to connect with router props.
So this is one easy way to do it. With router is just a function that will inject router props into whatever component I choose. So if I do that, then, and I export default connect, and I just wrap the whole thing with router. And now if I go refresh, this page will reload. I should still be logged in. I should still be able to inspect this. And if I go to that logout button, I now have my router props. And really all I need is history. So I'll grab history. And then I can simply, on submit, I'm now going to turn this into a function which submits the events and calls logout now with an argument of history. And I could even do it right here instead of in the action creator. I guess either way would be fine. So in other words, I could do this. Let's see. And so I don't actually need to pass the, so I could just invoke logout there, and then I could do history dot push slash there. So right in line, I don't even have to pass it to my action creator. I can just pass along log out with the event. Oops. Right, because when I log out, I do use the event, right? I do prevent default. Do I? Log out. Where's log out? Current user, log out. Was I not ever preventing default for that? Let's see how, well, anyway, I should. And actually, I don't have to do that here. I have the event right there in my submit. So let's do that. Let's do that instead. Let's simplify this a little bit. So in my logout, I've got my event, so I can log out. I don't need to pass the event. I don't need to pass any arguments. Let's keep this a little simpler. So I'm going to prevent default. Why not do that right here? There. That makes a little more sense, maybe. So when I log out, when I submit this logout form, I don't think I was preventing default before, by the way. Whoops. I'm going to prevent default so that we don't get a refresh. I'm going to fire the logout action. The logout action. And I'm going to go back to the home page. Let's see if this is working or what we broke anyway. So my trips, new trip, log out, and we go back home, and that's perfect. Sign up, log in, Nadia, password, and now log out. There we go. Much better. Does that feel better? Does this feel okay with everybody? Questions about what I just did? How I did it?
Seems straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah,
I found, what's that?
That's a good deal.
Yeah, I was in a place where I didn't have router props. By the way, why didn't I have my router props in this component? Any ideas? Why it wasn't available?
Because you didn't have with router imported.
So that's one answer, right? And that is correct, but it's coupled with another answer. There's another important reason why logout didn't have router props. As I'm looking at this,
It's a functional component, maybe?
no, it's not because it was functional. It's because it was rendered. Wait a minute. Who is logout a child of? let's look at this again. So it's inside of,
It's a child of navbar.
it's a child of home, right? No, not home, child of navbar. There you go. Like you said, child of navbar. And I'm rendering it here. I'm not rendering it as the child of a link, right? Not as a child, I should say the child of a route. Even though it looks like it's under a route here, which it kind of is. Connect, log out, log out. So I'm not getting, ooh, does that mean that could I actually do this? Okay, so I didn't need to use with router, I don't think. So what I could do instead, sorry, let's do that a slightly different way. Instead of using with router, let's see. That seems a bit excessive. It'll work, it worked just fine. But let's see if we can give log out. So if we look at nav, this guy, nav bar, if we look at it, this guy up here, nav bar does not have, so what I want to see is, do I have available, like what could my props be here? Like could I grab, so nav bar, I guess I don't have my router props here, do I? I was trying to think if I had my router props, I could just pass them directly in here. But if I don't have access to them, I guess I'll just go back. The way I had it works just fine. We'll stick with that. Okay, that should be working. We'll stick with this for now. There's like 10 ways we could do this. I'm happy with the way we have it right now. Cool. So our next steps then would be to finish up. Am I able to create a trip right now? Did we build that functionality last time? When I click on new trip. Nope, so we never finished this, okay. This is a good place to leave off and a great place to pick up tomorrow. And I look forward to finishing this form. So we're gonna be able to create a new trip. Let's add full CRUD on trips. So create, obviously we can already read, but in the read part though, let's add show. So create, show, and update and delete trips. So we have full CRUD on trips tomorrow. And that's gonna be a really nice addition to this series, because that's kind of like, that's what we want to be able to do, right? We want to be able to create these things and run full CRUD actions on the things that we own within this project. So that'll be tomorrow's agenda. Any questions about anything we looked at today?
No, good. Thanks, Howard.
Cool. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your questions. Tomorrow, I forget what time, but it's sometime similar time, I think. And I look forward to doing this.
Thank
Everybody
you.
have an awesome evening.
Howard.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.